Alright, welcome everyone back to our Week 6 match for the WPF for the World Pokemon Federation, the Psycho Boost division. This week we are taking on Jamal, that is our opponent. And yeah, why don't we just hop right into it. So, this is the matchup that we have here. Obviously, I'm out of free agents transactions, so my team is sticking for the rest of the season, as is. But Jamal, I don't know if he made any free agent transactions, but his team is on the right side: Palafin, Garchomp, Goldango, Iron Jugulis, Terra Iron Moth, Sylveon, Chestnut, Electros, Girafarig, young giraffe right there, and Fletchinder. So he's a pretty scary team. He has a lot of offensive threats with Palafin, Goldango, even Garchomp, and obviously Terra Moth and Jugulis. Sylveon could be a threat offensively as well. My team doesn't really handle berries that well outside of Skeletors, Rev, or Screamtail, and even Regieleki, depending on what type I have to bring here. But initial reactions, he doesn't really have great overall checks for Regieleki. Just looking at his team, he can create pseudo pivots between like Goldango, Sylveon, Chestnut, and Electros, but the main kind of hazard in the way is Garchomp. So I feel like the best game plan is always the same game plan. Make it so Regieleki can pick off things by getting residual chip using my walls as well as hazards. So I need to be able to get up my rocks right away as well as my spikes using Ceaseless Edge. So that's kind of what my overall idea was for this matchup. I thought he could bring any combo of the first 8 Mons. Most likely probably benching the bottom 2, but I could definitely see an argument for Chestnut and Eel, depending on what his Goldango was, and what his Sylveon was as well. But I think both of those Mons can kind of take things on pretty well. I thought Chestnut was not that amazing into Iron Hands, Skeledirge. I mean, Samurott gets Air Slash and Aerial Ace for it. Eel could be decent as a Lecky pivot, but it kind of lost to everything else as well, I felt. So I kind of expect the top 6 to come, and that's kind of what I was building around. So why don't we just go right into the build. So like I said, the first one I wanted to build around was the Regieleki, but the first one that I actually built was the Skeledirge. So as you can see, Skeledirge is the first mon in the builder, but the reason I did that is because I don't really have an amazing pivot to Sylveon, and I kind of need that. As well as Iron Moth in a way, but depending on what Moth's type is, Skeledirge probably doesn't handle it, but if he's like Terra Fire, Skeledirge should be able to handle it as well. I can take overheats amongst other things, but mainly it's my Sylveon pivot, so it has max Spadef, some HP investment, and then a Bold Nature and special attack investment. Basically, this set just allows me to take, I believe, Booster, Modest Overheats from Terra Fire Iron Moth, but it also is able to take on like defensive Sylveon Shadow Ball as well. And then the defense investment is actually for Wave Crash. If he was, I believe it's like a bulk up leftovers Palafin, I can take a Wave Crash from full, I believe, or it's like Adamant Banded Jet Punch, one of the two. I can't really remember on the top of my head, but it was for some type of Palafin hit, especially if he was not banded. But as you can see, we have Torch Song. Basically is the best neutral click versus his entire team. His only fire resist are Iron Moth, Fletchinder, Palafin, and Garchomp, and a lot of those Mons just take damage. They don't really heal, outside of maybe Iron Moth. And then I have Fire Spin. So I originally had some speed investment on this, but I took it off because I didn't know if Sylveon would even run speed for Skeledirge. And I still outsped like if he ran a creep for like Iron Hands or something, being faster than him. So I ran Fire Spin because if Sylveon is rocking Baton Pass, it probably doesn't have Shadow Ball or it doesn't have Protect. But if it doesn't have Baton Pass, it's probably rocking Protect, which means it can't really switch out and heal things with Wish. So I would be able to click Fire Spin and trap it. It'll start taking residual damage, I can start Torch Songing, Slack Off, and then Will-O-Wisp would be decent if he is like a faster Sylveon and he like Baton Passed or something, or he hard switched into like Palafin or Garchomp. I would be able to burn those with Will-O-Wisp, which is kind of the main premise. I wanted to go with that. But yeah, that's basically what Skeledirge is. It's the main Sylveon pivot. I can pivot into Chestnut if he brought it as well. Eel, in a sense, as well. But that's mainly it. But yeah, the main objective Mon I wanted to build around was the Regieleki. And as you can see, we are Terra Ice with Thunderbolt, Terra Blast, Extreme Speed, and Volt Switch. So like I said, I can mainly Volt Switch on everything, get Chip, Revenge stuff. I can T-Bolt, Palafin in particular, or any other Mon that I need a T-Bolt. Terra Blast is specifically for Garchomp. I considered running Terra Dragon, just so I can hit Garchomp while also being able to resist the Jet Punch from Palafin, but it kind of made me weaker to Sylveon, as it made it harder to pivot around, while a more neutral Terra Ice can hit everything, including like Eel, including Chestnut. I could use it as a neutral click versus Jugulis, so I didn't have to click Thunderbolt into like a potential Garchomp, into like a Sylveon type of pivot. So overall, it was pretty good. But yeah, we have enough speed to outspeed a +1 or a booster Iron Moth, I believe. And then, or Iron Jugulis, one of the two. I think it's Iron Moth. And then we have the rest in special attack, but we have enough defense investment to live a Adamant +1 or an Adamant Banded Hero Form Palafin Jet Punch from full. And we're going to be pretty much able to keep this healthy at all times because we have heavy duty boots, and we'll also not really be forced to take any damage, because the only time a Lecky comes in is either it's clicking Volt Switch to get Chip on something, or it's revenging something and killing something that way. But yeah, I didn't really need a fourth move, so I threw on Extreme Speed in the chance I needed it to revenge like a Tailwind, Jugulis, like a Palafin. If it was low enough, I could pick it off without taking a Jet Punch. Same with like Iron Moth. If it was like Agility, I could pick it off as well, especially if I'm volting on it and throughout the game. So yeah, that's mainly Regieleki. After that, we have Dragonite. This is just the Spadef Dragonite with Earthquake, Ice Spinner, Roost, Dragon Dance. It's my main kind of pivot to Iron Moth. I didn't want to rely on Skeledirge because I feel like he's going to run a Terra type on Moth to hit Skeledirge, whether that be Water, Ground, Ghost, or Dark. I didn't think Water was going to come just because Aleki would be able to revenge that pretty easily. Ground could come because it handles like a more Spadef hands, as well as Aleki. He could also try to just bring Fire and then, I don't know, try to work around Skeledirge, but I feel like maybe he's probably just going to bring Ghost or Dark. Probably Ghost, just because it allows him to Dirge, Dragonite, and Annihilate, as well as Screamtail. But he could also bring Dark as a way to like resist Sucker Punch Samurott. But if he's not Ghost, then I can Extreme Speed him with Aleki or Dragonite, in theory. So that's just the set. Standard like decent coverage across his team. Earthquake hits basically everything super effectively or neutrally, and then Ice Spinner hits the rest. So Ice Spinner for Garchomp, Jugulis, Chestnut, Eel. Earthquake for Goldango, Palafin, Moth, Sylveon. Yeah, that's just mainly Dragonite. It can also take a hit from Jugulis. I believe a Specs Jugulis Hurricane does not two-shot Dragonite with Scale Up, as well as a Sylveon does not two-shot with Hyper Voice if he's a defensive variant. We can also take a hit from Goldango as well, which is really good. But yeah, that's mainly the Dragonite. And then our next 3 mons, so Screamtail is next. This is my primary pivot to Garchomp, because looking at the matchup, I don't think Garchomp carries coverage per se. I think he'll just run Earthquake and Dragon Move, as well as like hazards. That's mainly kind of how he's been using Garchomp as well. It could be like Helmet, at the very least, or it could be like Yachi Berry if he expects Aleki to come with Terra Ice. Also covers like the Ice Spinner, Ice Beam Samurott, amongst other things. So I think he might just be like Earthquake, Dragon Move, Spikes, Stealth Rocks. I mean, it's his only hazard setters, outside of Chestnut being Spikes, but it's his only rock setter. So if he decides to bring Chestnut with Spikes, then I could see this being mono Stealth Rocks, and then the 4th move would probably be Dragon Tail. and then he has Dragon Claw specifically for Dragonite. Or he runs like Stone Edge if he wants it like Braviary harder. So those could be the type of moves he brings. So if he just brings stabs, Balloon Screamtail will wall him, which is really good for me. So I figured I can just bring Balloon. I don't really need it for anything else. It could technically take a Jug hit or like a Sylveon hit, but I'm mainly just going to bring it for Garchomp and get up Stealth Rocks. The main primary thing is get up Rocks, get up Spikes. A Lecky can clean the endgame. So yeah, Rocks. I have Wish Baton Pass just to maintain momentum versus like Gholdengo. Or like Sylveon, for example, I can like Wish Pass into Skeletors or something. And then Gleam, specifically just to hit Garchomp. Hits Jug as well, Chestnut. Basically hits everything but like non-Terra Moth and Gholdengo, which I can't really touch anyways, and I didn't feel like running coverage that was going to be super weak into it. But yeah, that's Screamtail. Should be able to wall Garchomp, which gives me like the free autonomy to click Baton Pass or Wish versus it pretty easily. But yeah, my next mon is Samurott. Protective Pads, Sharpness with Razor Shell, Ceaseless Edge, Aerial Ace, and Swords Dance. I don't have priority on this, which would be good for like Moth, but I figured I didn't really see myself clicking the priority necessarily. I feel like it wasn't that effective for me, and I wanted Swords Dance in the off chance he was trying to use like a bulk up Palafin and I need to kind of muscle through it to break him down, or if he's using like a defensive Sylveon, if I chipped it down, I could technically Swords Dance and kill him with Razor Shell. Or Razor Shell in particular, I can two-shot something if I get a defense drop. So I figured that was worthwhile to have Razor Shell and Swords Dance on there. Aerial Ace specifically for Chestnut. I don't want to be walled by that thing, and there is a chance that it could come, and I don't want to not prep for it, so I will have Aerial Ace. It's probably like that's probably the only pivot he can use outside of Sylveon for Samurott. So bring Aerial Ace, not Air Slash, because with Swords Dance, Aerial Ace would just be stronger or the same power, so I figured it's not worth having a move that can miss 5% of the time. And I didn't want to like invest or change my nature or anything. But yeah, you see we have some Spadef investment. That's specifically for Gholdengo, so I can take a Gholdengo, like Make It Rain or a Shadow Ball, if he's like offensive. And then we have enough speed to outspeed Gholdengo because we actually are 1 base point higher. So I believe he's 84 and we're 85. That should be good. And then we have pads specifically for Garchomp or like Chestnut if he's Helmet, because I want to be able to get around him like being like Helmet, Rocky Helmet, and that just does a lot of chip damage. So I can actually just freely spam Ceaseless Edge without really caring, and I can get up my spikes, which is really good. But yeah, this is my primary Revenger for Gholdengo. I kind of expect him to probably run like a T-Wave Hex set with like Recover and just be like bulky. So I kind of have to utilize my Samurott well, make sure I don't get like T-Waved or anything. But if I do, I should still be able to Ceaseless Edge and get up a Spike, which is really good for me. And then put it in range of Regieleki. And my last mon, this is my Palafin pivot. Helmet with a lot of defense and HP with some speed to outspeed a non-invested Sylveon, I believe like a 16 speed Sylveon, while also underspeeding Chestnut. And I should outspeed Electros as well. But mainly, close combat, Wild Charge, Earthquake, Volt Switch. I originally had Heavy Slam, but there was no guarantee that I outsped Sylveon, so I actually took it off. Figured I would just switch out on it anyways and not risk trying to outspeed it. But I have close combat specifically to hit Garchomp harder, as well as Chestnut, as well as Eel. I wanted to be able to hit Eel decently hard. Wild Charge is specifically for bulk up Palafin, because without a stronger electric hit, he could actually just bulk up with leftovers and just heal, especially if he was like the punching glove. He gets a boost on his Drain Punch as well as get around my my Rocky Helmet. So I figured it was worthwhile. And then Earthquake specifically for Gholdengo, because I want to be able to hit Gholdengo harder if I needed to, because I should be able to live 2 modest Shadow Balls from Gholdengo from this. And then Volt Switch, it's good for momentum. I especially wanted it because say like I have to bring Iron Hands versus like a Chestnut or something. I want a slow Volt on his ability to click Leech Seed versus me, because it'd be really annoying to have to constantly pivot around that. So having that slower Volt is actually really nice. But yeah, that's basically the team. Get up hazards, facilitate Aleki, control his threats like Palafin and Iron Moth, but as well as the Goldango, kind of scout it out. And then if Jug does come, we're going to feel a little bit of pressure with our Dragonite versus like Moth and Jugulus, so we're going to have to do our best to contain those threats, and then hopefully Aleki can clean up the game. But yeah. So why don't we just hop right into the replay. Alright, so we have pulled up the replay here. Obviously my team is listed right here. From the backside we have Skeletors, Regieleki, Dragonite, Screamtail, Samurott, and Iron Hands. And as you can see, he brought Electros, Chestnut, Palafin, Iron Moth, Goldango, and Sylveon. So no Garchomp and no Iron Jugulus. So I'm actually ecstatic. No Jugulus is pretty good for me. I don't have to pivot around that, which means Dragonite mainly just has to check the Iron Moth. Unless he's like Terra Fairy, then Skeletors can handle that. But yeah, that's not too bad. And then no Garchomp, which means Screamtail is not as important anymore, which means I can just use it to get up rocks. So originally I was going to lead Samurott if I saw Garchomp, and just click Ceaseless Edge because I figured the Chomp would just get up hazards versus Samurott rather than click Earthquake, or I could just go hard Screamtail, get up rocks that way, and Ceaseless Edge later versus like Goldango. So I figured it was the best lead because I figured he might lead Palafin as well, so I could lead with Samurott and click Ceaseless Edge with that, since I didn't want to break my balloon if Garchomp was on the team. But since there's no Garchomp here, I actually don't fear leading Screamtail anymore, so I'm just actually going to lead it and get up my rocks right away, since I don't really need to preserve the balloon. So yeah, why don't we just hop right into the game here. So I lead Screamtail as he leads Sylveon, so that's a really interesting lead. You probably just saw that I didn't have a resist outside of Skeletors, no Revavroom. The reason I didn't want to bring Rev was because the combo of like pivoting around Goldango was actually really tough, like Goldango Garchomp. I didn't do enough damage, especially with like Bulldoze the Goldango. He could like T-Wave me. Yeah, Shadow Ball was really strong into Revavroom. So like by the time I was like, actually, I wouldn't actually pressure the Sylveon because he could always just heal the Goldango. But unless hazards were up. So I just figured like I needed all the other defensive pieces over that. But yeah, I kind of want to scout this out, see what his offensive investment is and all that. So I'm just going to click Rocks here as he goes for Hyper Voice, and he proves to be not offensive at all. So he's probably like a max defense, max HP. I click Baton Pass here just to pivot out into Skeletors. I considered clicking Wish, and I probably should have just to scout and see what coverage he has, but I end up going Skeletors. I feel like it's safe, even if he clicks Shadow Ball, which he does. Eat it up, but he gets a Spadef drop here, so that's actually pretty bad for me because now I can't stay in reliably. So I have to switch back out into Screamtail here, and you're going to see some pretty unfortunate sequences for me, but he goes for Hyper Voice as I go for Wish, as he clicks Shadow Ball here, and obviously he's probably going to click Shadow Ball again at this point. But I decide to heal up my Skeletors rather than do nothing with my Screamtail. But he gets another Spadef drop as I heal, which means I cannot stay in again, which means I have to sack my Screamtail prematurely, which I wanted to kind of keep around. So Screamtail dies, and we have nothing else to go into outside of Dirge, so we go back into Dirge. And from here, I kind of just need to scout out what his set is and start getting up Chip. I considered maybe clicking Fire Spin, but I feel like Torch Song might put on the most type of pressure. So that's what I click. I click Torch Song as he actually swaps, which is pretty bizarre to me, so I don't know what he was thinking. So I was like, maybe this is Assault Vest Eel. So I go for Torch Song here, and that is not Assault Vest Eel. Definitely some max HP, but I have no idea. It could be like defensive, it could be like offensive or something. But he shows no item here, so maybe he could be like max defense with Assault Vest. Like, I don't know. It was weird. So I figured he might just Volt Switch or something, so I just go for another Torch Song that is much chip, but this thing is already low, which is really great for my Regieleki, as he does click Volt Switch, and he gets a crit, which is a bit unfortunate, because we would have been healthier. But, yeah, he opts to go into Palafin here, obviously not in hero form, but he takes Rocks, which is big. I need chip on this, but non-hero form is easier to pivot around, so I can easily go hands and take any hit. And if he attacks me, then I'll get to see like what item he is. But as you can see, he actually takes leftovers there. So I know he's leftovers. He's not banded or anything, so he's probably the bulk up set. So I'm just gonna go hands because if he is Wave Crash, it kills my Dirge even in regular form. So I don't know how invested he is. So I just go hard hands here. As he goes Wave Crash and it does absolutely nothing. He takes more damage than I did through recoil. But this thing's already at 76%, and since there's no Garchomp, no ground, this is a free Volt Switch for me as he goes into his Chestnut here as I Volt. And I just bring in Dirge again to put on immediate pressure. So I could either click Recovery here, which is probably better for me. I don't know if he'll go hard Palafin here or not, or if he stays in and clicks Spikes or something. He could go Sylveon, but I figure I kind of want to heal since I don't have speed on this, so I actually have no idea if I guarantee outspeed Sylveon or not. So I just go for I do go for Torch Song, my bad. I do go for Torch Song. I guess kind of to scout out, see what he clicked there. I guess I put on the most pressure, yeah. Slack Off would have been a little bit more passive there. But he actually goes for Leech Seed, and so he gets a little bit of health healing out of that. So he can either click Spiky Shield, or he will now switch into Sylveon here, and he'll start getting Leech Seed recovery. So, or like Palafin, for example. So I don't want him to actually do that. And I figure if he's going to stay in, he's going to click Spiky Shield, or he's going to sack it and just click like Spikes or something. So I actually want to put on the most pressure versus like him potentially going Palafin or Sylveon. And I can actually Volt Switch for free since there's no ground type. So I actually make a double into Aleki here, expecting him either to Spiky Shield or double into Palafin or Sylveon. He does go into Palafin here. He takes more Rocks damage, which is big for me. So yeah, I could stay in here and just click Thunderbolt, but he actually, if he's like max Spadef, Thunderbolt does 64% minimum. So I have no idea. I think he is kind of adamant nature though. So I have no idea like how invested in Spadef he could potentially be, but I click Volt Switch because I can easily go into hands afterwards, and I don't really need to hard Thunderbolt in particular. So I do click Volt Switch here. He could have sacked Eel for all I knew. I can reset, but he actually goes into Sylveon, and the 26% tells me that he is actually just max HP, so he probably has max defense. So from here I can just go into my Skeledirge. I can't go into Samurott yet because I can't kill, and then he can kill me back with Hyper Voice. So I figure I can just slack off here and see what his speed investment is. And as you see, he actually is faster than me, and that's not amazing. So I go for slack off here, and obviously that crit Volt Switch meant we could have been at 68% at this point, which is a rule for 2 Shadow Balls, but I figured it's the safest thing just to click slack off here again. I figured he might click Wish or something, but he actually hard switches out, so I have no idea what the Sylveon is actually carrying. I assume it has Wish, but he doesn't feel comfortable clicking it, it seems. But he goes hard Moth. He proves that he shows that he's Boots, which means he's not like Specs or Booster or anything. So there's no chip on this, which is unfortunate for Aleki, since I want to be able to chip this down to revenge it. But I need to scout what his Terra is, so I'm going to go hard Dragonite here. It is my primary initial pivot to this Mon. But he doesn't attack me at all, but you see it's Terra Darks, but he goes for Toxic Spikes. So a bit annoying, but not the end of the world. Dirge, Aleki, and Dragonite are all Boots. Dragonite off the ground, so it doesn't affect it. Samurott, I don't see it staying around that long anyways. I just need to get one Spike up and put pressure on Goldango, and that's pretty much it. And then Iron Hands is mainly just there to chip Palafin anyway, so I don't really mind the T-Spike on that. So yeah, not attacking me was good for me. It meant I could get a free Dragon Dance here, which is what I go for. And he's obviously not Terra Fairy, so I go for Dragon Dance here. What's a bit unfortunate is if I was really offensive, I could probably kill this Goldango, but I figure he might be like Colberberry or like Shookaberry. So that's why I didn't really go for an offensive, because he could have just been like Shookaberry with like T-Wave or like Colberberry, whatever. So the Spadef made more sense into the matchup, specifically for Jug and Moth. But as you can see, he switches in, but he actually reveals leftovers. So I'm like, oh, okay, so if I was offensive, like fully offensive, Earthquake probably would just kill this, even if he's like defense investment and stuff. But I figure I just get the chip damage on it. It really helps my Lecky, so I go for Earthquake, as he does go for T-Wave here, but that shows he is max HP with some defense investments on his Goldango, so now he's at 31%. My scale is still intact, so I kind of want to maintain that for Moth. So instead of staying and going for Earthquake and risk getting paralyzed and he hexes me, I figure he might just recover trying to do that, or he might hex me and try to break my scale, which would help his Moth out. So I actually go hard Samurott here. He can't T-Wave me because of the T-Spike, and if he does recover, I can just Ceaseless Edge and get my spikes up, and I'll get chip damage on this. So I actually go hard Samurott here, as he does not recover, and he goes for Hex. Doesn't do a whole lot. We have a decent amount of Spadef investment, but we'll be at around 50%, and he'll be at 37. So this is definitely in Ceaseless Edge range. I figure he might just sack Eel or go Chestnut or something. So I just go for Ceaseless Edge here, as he does go to Chestnut, and he never revealed an item, so I don't know if he's Helmet or not, but since we're pads, we won't know for sure if he's Helmet. But yeah, we get Ceaseless damage, but that damage kind of showed me he was not defensive, and the Volt Switch damage we did to it earlier showed me he was actually max Spadef Chestnut, which means I know my Aerial Ace kills even through Colberberry. So I go for Aerial Ace here. I do get a crit, did not matter. It showed me he was only max HP, so that definitely killed there. But yeah, now we're at 26%, and he decides to go into Iron Moth. Obviously, he can't go Eel. I have to make sure Eel doesn't like rest if he has it. But everything on my team is probably faster than it, especially since Hands has a lot of speed investment. Dirge is pretty fast, but if his Eel's the same speed as Sylveon, then obviously that'll be annoying to play around. But he would need a lot of speed investment for that. Palafin would take 25% from Hazard, so it's going to be low. Goldango's going to take 18% from Hazard, so it's going to be low as well, and I outspeed it. Sylveon would be at 50%, and I can Razor Shell, so I mean, he's kind of forced to go into something, and he goes into Moth, but one thing that doesn't take chip from Hazards, and I don't want to let him set up for free, so I just click Razor Shell here to click Sludge Wave. I could have went Dragonite, but again, I don't want to let this thing set up for free, especially in Agility. So since it's not boosted, and I can't really use Dirge, can't use Hands, and I don't want to use Dragonite right away. I want initial chip damage on him. So I actually go Lecky here so I can Volt Switch, and I can start racking up chip damage on him. But he shows to be not really bulky, so I do 40% there. So I know another Volt Switch into an extreme speed will kill Iron Moth. But yeah, he clicks Sludge Wave there, he doesn't boost or anything. All I need is like some chip damage here, which would be nice. So I think I go for Earthquake just to get that chip damage. I don't think he wants to risk going Sylveon or something. So he goes Goldango. I don't get paralyzed, which is good, so I killed Goldango here. And I figured he might go Sylveon, just so he can like wish and like actually heal himself and like start putting on more pressure, but he actually opts to go Palafin here. I don't know why, probably because he has like an ice move and he's comfortable with breaking the multi-scale at this point, but I thought Sylveon was better. Sylveon outsped since I'm paralyzed. Obviously Eel I think I still outsped, but if I was like max speed, but since I'm not +1 anymore, he actually could have came in with Eel and clicked Rest if he had it. I wouldn't have been able to do anything about that. I would have had to use Skeletor's at that point. But yeah, he didn't go into either one of those. He went Palafin, took Hazards, and I have an Iron Hand, so I wasn't too sure why, but he makes a double into Eel as I go into my Hands here. But I was perfectly fine with this. I mean, obviously I take Poison Chip, but this Palafin took 25% for no reason, I felt, which was good for me because now it's potentially an extreme speed range. It'll be at 20% for a Lecky later, so I don't even have to risk the Jet Punch if I don't have to. But yeah, with Eel, he comes in. I'm assuming he made this double probably to... He probably has speed on it and thinks he outspeeds hands, but since I have speed for no speed Sylveon, I feel comfortable that I'll outspeed this, so I actually just go for Wild Charge here instead of Close Combat. I don't want to take the defense drops if I don't have to, but I figure he might think he outspeeds. He doesn't. I kill with Wild Charge, and he reveals Helmet, so that's actually not great for me because I've taken a considerable amount of recoil. If I didn't have the Helmet, I was actually out of range of Iron Moth. He would have been forced to use like Sylveon or something, and he was definitely not going Palafin. So, but he decides to go Moth here. That's fine. I don't really see a reason to save this. I could go Dragonite if I wanted to, but I want to keep that around because Hands doesn't really do anything outside of it like switching to Palafin, but I don't really need to switch in anymore since it's at 20% when it comes in. So I just sack it off. Moth gets another kill, and again, similar to what I did last time when I sacked Samurott, I'm going to go into Lecky and click Volt Switch because I can get the chip damage and put it into extreme speed range, and then I can sack off my Dragonite. So I go into Volt Switch here, and then I go into my Dragonite as he goes for Sludge Wave, and he gets a crit, so he wouldn't have actually been able to two-shot me with that, unless he's packing like Dazzling Gleam, then obviously he has it, but I figure he has a fire move on this and then Terra Blast Dark, so he actually got pretty lucky that didn't kill there. But regardless, if he didn't two-shot, I probably would have just clicked Dragon Dance rather than just hope he killed me, because I actually want to die. I want to get my Lecky back in because I don't want the Sylveon coming in for free and start clicking Wish and then have him like Wish into his like Palafin, for example, or just heal up his Sylveon, and I'm forced to use Dirge and just I'm at the mercy of Spadef drops. So fortunately for me, the crit comes through, which means he has to just kill me here, as he does in fact kill me, and I can go into my Lecky here, and I can either click Thunderbolt or I can click Volt Switch, and I kind of want his Sylveon to come in rather than Volt Switch and then go into Dirge and then he brings in Palafin. So I click Thunderbolt here because I want to stay in. I want to force the Sylveon in, as now the Sylveon's going to come in. It's going to be at 50% roughly, but I do not want to take chip damage on a Lecky because in case he gets a bulk up with Palafin, I want to be able to I want to be able to live at Jet Punch at +1, which I can do at full, because I don't know like fully what his investment is on Palafin. He hasn't taken any chip damage through an actual attack yet. So I click Volt Switch here. I could click Thunderbolt and then like Extreme Speed Palafin, but if he's bulkier than I think he is, he could actually live Extreme Speed for all I know, and then that's pretty bad for me. And then he'll Wave Crash Dirge and then he'll win 0-0. So I click Volt Switch here, not trying to take a Hyper Voice as he goes, I expect him to click Wish here, but he clicks Shadow Ball, raw Shadow Ball. So I'm praying he doesn't get a Spadef drop. He does not, which is great for me. And at this point, I just need this chipped down a little bit further so I can just T-Bolt spam the end of the game here. So I figure he's going to click Wish here. But he clicks Shadow Ball for some reason. So I'm like, does he even have Wish at this point? So I do 23%, and now he's at 14%. So if he kills me here, he'll be at 20%, which is in Thunderbolt range. I can Thunderbolt twice and win the game. Even a crit Jet Punch won't kill my Lecky from full. So I should have this on lock, but then I thought about it. If he clicks Wish here as I kill him, he goes Palafin, he'll be at 20%, but then he'll Jet Punch my Skeledirge, and he'll get probably, because I think Sylveon and Palafin have roughly the same HP, he'll get roughly like 50% back from the Wish, so he'll be at 70%, and then he'll get the leftovers. Or I guess actually it'll be less, maybe slightly less, so around 50%. He'll be around like 70%, and then he'll get the leftovers. So he'll be at roughly like 75%. And if he's max Spadef, like I think he might be, then my Thunderbolt doesn't even kill him. Which means he could Jet Punch me twice and win the game. So I don't actually want to kill the Sylveon. So what I do is I actually click Slack Off here, because if he does click Wish, I can click Torch Song the very next turn. It kills Palafin at 20%, and then I'll waste his Wish that turn. So I can actually click Slack Off here if he chooses to not, if he chooses to click Wish, because I do not want to let him pass it into Palafin. So yeah, but he ends up going for Shadow Ball, and he does kill me. So he basically concedes the game, and Regieleki can win. I assume at this point he's probably just banking on like a crit Jet Punch killing me. But obviously I have the defense investment. I click Thunderbolt here, as now he goes into his Palafin. And this is where that random him coming in on Dragonite after I killed the Goldango kind of cost him, because in this endgame sequence he could have used it as a pivot and like get in Dirge and stuff and keep his Sylveon healthy. But instead now he's pretty low, and he wouldn't have been able to work around the Dirge at that point. All because he took an extra 25% that he didn't have to. But he clicks Jet Punch, obviously a crit would have not been close to killing, and we Thunderbolt, and we win the game. Aleki picking up 3 more kills, so Aleki is now 8-1 on the season in 3 games. And obviously Bundle was 7-1 previously, so combined our Terra captains in 6 games are 15-2. And that's pretty impressive, especially for Mons that don't really set up. They kind of just revenge kind of people's teams, which is kind of the point of this team, right? Executed the game plan. We got up Rocks and Spikes, and then Aleki picking off things slowly, Voltine on Iron Moth to get it chipped down, making sure we get Sylveon chipped down as well as Eel and Chestnut, which Dirge did beautifully. Dirge was able to kill or weaken Eel, was able to kind of pivot around Sylveon, same with Scream. Hazards mainly played a big part in Sylveon. Palafin, we got the helmet chip and then Hazards. And then Dirge weakened the Chestnut for me to put it in range of Samurott, Aerial Ace, and then Goldango got killed by the Dragonite, and then Aleki kind of just picked off all the other pieces. But yeah, good win for us, much needed win. We are now 4-2 on the season, and yeah, we're sitting a little bit better, but we have 3 more games left in the season. Next week we play Carmine and his Terra Espathra, not looking forward to that. And then after that, we move into our final 2 games, which are matchups against the other conference in our league. I believe we play Slick and then Orn Latios as our last 2 games. So hopefully we can come out into a playoff position in the next couple of weeks. Obviously we want to win the next game. That's the only game we're going to be caring about right now. Being 5-2 would put us in a great position. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed this week, make sure to let me know what your favorite part of the battle was. If you like the kind of the simple approach compared to previous weeks, but yeah, great execution here. Very similar to the Kyle game we had a couple weeks ago, but with Aleki kind of just cleaning things up, making sure the threats that could potentially outspeed or kill us are contained or stopped with good middle grounds, like going Samurott to preserve scale on Dragonite, like Dirge clicking Slack Off instead of killing the Sylveon if he clicked Wish and he got Palafin healed up. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next week when we play against Carmine. Peace.